Some football transfers change a season. Others change football forever. One signature divided a nation. One decision turned a hero into a villain. Supporters burned shirts. A stadium erupted with hatred. And years later, people still talk about it. But before Luís Figo became football's most controversial transfer, he had already become one of the greatest footballers in the world. This is the story of the transfer that shook football. Luís Felipe Madeira Ciaro Figo was born on the 4th of November, 1972, in Almada, Portugal. From an early age, his talent stood apart. He wasn't simply quick. He wasn't simply skillful. He possessed balance, vision, creativity, the ability to glide past defenders as though the ball was tied to his feet. Football looked effortless. His journey began at Sporting CP. Portugal has always produced gifted footballers, but this generation felt different. Alongside Rui Costa, João Pinto, and others, Figo became part of the famous Golden Generation. The young Portuguese side captured the imagination of Europe, winning the FIFA World Youth Championship twice. Scouts across the continent knew exactly what they were watching. Future stars. At Sporting, Figo quickly established himself as one of Portugal's brightest talents. Every week, he tormented fullbacks. His crossing was exceptional. His dribbling mesmerizing. His decision-making remarkably mature. He could beat defenders on the outside, cut inside with ease, or create chances nobody else had even seen. Before long, Europe's biggest clubs were fighting for his signature. In 1995, Barcelona won that race. For many players, joining Barcelona represents the dream. For Luís Figo, it became the stage where he announced himself as one of football's elite. Under Johan Cruyff, and later Bobby Robson and Louis van Gaal, his game reached extraordinary heights. Camp Nou fell in love with him. Supporters adored the Portuguese winger. He wasn't just producing assists. He was deciding matches, week after week. His pace, intelligence, and flawless technique overwhelmed defenders. Every attack seemed to flow through him. He became the heartbeat of Barcelona's attack. Success followed. La Liga titles, the Copa del Rey, European trophies, individual awards. Then, in the year 2000, Luís Figo reached another milestone. He won the Ballon d'Or, officially recognized as the best footballer in the world. For Barcelona supporters, he wasn't simply another great player. He was their captain, their leader, their icon. Many believed he would spend the rest of his career wearing blue and red. Then, everything changed. Real Madrid presidential candidate Florentino Perez made an astonishing promise. If he won the election, he would sign Luís Figo. Almost everyone laughed. Barcelona's captain joining their greatest rivals? Impossible. Supporters dismissed it. Journalists questioned it. Even Figo himself appeared relaxed. No one believed it could actually happen. Then election day arrived. Perez won. The impossible had suddenly become possible. Football was about to witness the most controversial transfer the game had ever seen. The impossible had happened. Luís Figo had left Barcelona to join Real Madrid. Not just any club, Barcelona's greatest rivals, for a world record transfer fee. Football had never witnessed anything quite like it. Supporters were stunned. Barcelona felt betrayed. Real Madrid celebrated. Spain was divided. Overnight, one of football's most loved players became one of its most hated. The anger was unlike anything seen before. Figo wasn't just another departing player. He had been Barcelona's captain, their leader, their hero. Supporters had sung his name, worn his shirt, celebrated his goals. Now, they saw him wearing white. For many fans, it felt unforgivable. Then came one of football's most infamous nights. November 2002. Camp Nou. Barcelona against Real Madrid. Every touch Figo took was greeted by deafening whistles. Objects rained down from the stands. Coins. Bottles. Even a pig's head was thrown towards the corner flag as he prepared to take a corner. The image traveled around the world. It became one of the most iconic and shocking moments in football history. Few players have ever faced such hostility. Yet Figo never walked away. He stood over the ball, waited, and carried on. That moment summed him up. Composed, fearless, professional. It would have been easy for the pressure to consume him. Many players would have crumbled. Luís Figo responded the only way he knew, by playing football. Week after week, he justified Real Madrid's faith. His crossing remained exceptional. His dribbling mesmerized defenders. His consistency never disappeared. The transfer may have dominated the headlines, but his football continued to speak louder. Real Madrid weren't simply building a team. They were building the Galacticos. And Luís Figo was the first piece of the puzzle. Soon came Zinedine Zidane, Ronaldo Nazario, David Beckham, some of the greatest footballers of their generation. Yet before any of them, there was Figo. He was the signing that changed everything. The player who launched a new era at the Santiago Bernabeu. Success quickly followed. Real Madrid won La Liga. Then another. In 2002, they reached the UEFA Champions League final against Bayer Leverkusen. The match is remembered for Zinedine Zidane's unforgettable volley. But throughout that European campaign, Figo had been one of Madrid's driving forces. When the final whistle blew, Real Madrid were champions of Europe. Luís Figo had done what many believed impossible. He had left Barcelona, joined their greatest rivals, and delivered exactly what they had paid for. By now, the controversy hadn't disappeared. Barcelona supporters still couldn't forgive him. Every return to Camp Nou brought another hostile reception. But something else was becoming impossible to ignore. Real Madrid hadn't just signed a headline. They had signed one of the finest wingers in world football. His decision would always divide opinion. His quality never did. The transfer changed football forever. But Luís Figo's legacy was about far more than one controversial decision. As the years passed, the noise slowly faded. The headlines disappeared. The controversy became history. What remained was football. And Luís Figo never stopped proving his quality. At Real Madrid, he became far more than the player who crossed football's greatest divide. He became a leader, a creator, a winner. Every week, he delivered the same elegance that had made him one of the world's finest footballers. His balance, his vision, his flawless first touch, the ability to glide past defenders before delivering the perfect cross. Very few wide players in football history combined intelligence and technique quite like Luís Figo. The trophies continued to arrive. 2 La Liga titles, the UEFA Champions League, the UEFA Super Cup, the Intercontinental Cup, Spanish Super Cups. For Real Madrid, the world record fee had been justified. They hadn't simply signed a superstar. They had signed a footballer capable of changing the course of the club's history. Yet Figo's influence stretched far beyond club football. With Portugal, he helped transform the national team. For decades, Portugal had produced gifted individuals. Now, they were becoming genuine contenders. Alongside Rui Costa, Fernando Couto, and a young Cristiano Ronaldo, Figo inspired a new generation. His leadership became just as important as his talent. Then came UEFA Euro 2004. Hosted in Portugal. The nation dreamed of lifting its first major trophy. Figo led from the front. Portugal reached the final. Only Greece stood between them and history. Football can be cruel. Against all expectations, Greece won. Heartbreak returned. But Figo's legacy with Portugal had already been secured. He had helped lay the foundations for one of international football's great modern eras. In 2005, another challenge awaited. Inter Milan. Many believed his greatest years were behind him. Instead, he reinvented himself once again. No longer relying on explosive pace. He relied on experience, vision, positioning, football intelligence. The qualities that never fade. At Inter, Success followed once more. Serie A titles, domestic cups, more silverware, another dressing room strengthened by his presence. Different country, different teammates. The same result. Winning. Because truly great footballers don't rely on one system or one league. They adapt. They evolve. They endure. So, what is Luís Figo's true legacy? Was it the transfer? The Ballon d'Or? The Champions League? The trophies? Perhaps. But there was something even greater. He had the courage to make the biggest decision of his career, knowing millions would never forgive him. Whether people agreed with that decision or not, it demanded extraordinary conviction. Then, he did the hardest thing of all. He justified it. Not with interviews. Not with excuses. With performances. Week after week. Season after season. He let his football answer every question. Today, supporters still debate that famous transfer. Some call it betrayal. Others call it ambition. But nobody questions Luís Figo's ability. He remains one of the greatest wingers his generation produced. A Ballon d'Or winner. A Champions League winner. A footballer whose elegance and consistency made him world-class for almost 2 decades. Football has witnessed thousands of transfers. Most are forgotten. One changed history. Not because of the money. Not because of the headlines. But because it involved one of the finest footballers in the world. Luís Figo didn't just make football's most controversial move. He made one of its most successful. And that's why Luís Figo will always be remembered as the transfer that shook football. And above all, a true footballing icon.